All right. Hi, everybody. This is going to be a little bit more, I think, of a fun presentation than some of the other ones, for me at least, hopefully for you too. Specifically, we're going to be talking about how to make graphics and that just this simple overview of graphic design stuff. Now, I have some experience using most of the Adobe suite, Illustrator and Photoshop and all those, and those programs are incredibly powerful. They're really, yeah, they're complex. If you've ever delved into them, there's a lot to learn, which is great. We are not going to do anything like that today. Everything we're going to use is going to be free, and it's going to be pretty darn simple. I've gotten comments a little bit in the past that sometimes I say things are simple and then we jump in and they're not. And so, what I'm going to do today, maybe I'll go ahead and pull up a PowerPoint and screen share here. I assume everybody can hear me fine. We did a sound check earlier, but if you have questions, please drop them in the chat. I'll be monitoring them periodically. Thank you. Yes, so I wore my dark rimmed glasses and my quirky shirt so that you believe that I know something about graphic design. Um, so I'm not a graphic designer. All right. So I dabble. I appreciate the visual arts. I appreciate the people who are actually really talented at this. And so if you really want to take it to the next level, I would recommend hiring someone who's a professional. That being said, since many of us are direct marketers or we're representing organizations or whatever, I know that we sometimes have to be a little bit of everything to everybody. And so today, this is my roadmap for what I think we want to do. So I'm going to start with the most absolutely dead simple. I'm going to take you, and we're going to use a program called Canva. I sent that out in the email just a few minutes ago to everybody. Canva is completely free. It is browser based. If you've used it before, hopefully you'll still get something out of it. But if you're not familiar with any of this stuff, Canva is just basically a really, really easy to use version of Adobe InDesign, I would say. Adobe InDesign or Photoshop. Simple graphic design, drag and drop. It's all going to be very, very simple. After that, I'm going to go in and I'm going to tell you all my secrets, most of my secrets about what I try to do to make stuff. About what I do to make stuff look good, or tools and things that I've used in the past to try to tweak things. Katie mentioned, Katie Bowman from K-Card mentioned that there's also an app. You can use your phone, you can use your iPad, all that kind of stuff. So, and the apps are great. So that's another option. So this is kind of where we're going to go. And so immediately I'm going to pop out and go over to the browser window because I know we'll jump straight into the demo. I'll mention this now. There is going to be another webinar coming up next week. It's going to be this basic components of a Facebook business. I'll come back to that at the end. So this is Canva. Okay, so all I did was I went in here, I provided them an email address, I provided them my name, and I registered for free. And once you get through all of their orientation screens, this is where you're going to end up. Okay. And again, I'm going to cover principles and things on the back end. I think sometimes I tend to overwhelm people with the concepts. So we're just going to jump in and start doing. That being said, I do want to orient you to the page here. So up here on the top left, this is just if you had multiple different accounts, you can switch between them. Create a design is how you're going to start to create a design. A couple other tabs I think that are important. All your designs. This is where Canva stores all of the stuff that you have made in the past. You can see down here, I've already played around and done this a little bit. When you first start, you won't have anything down here, but templates, this is a really nice one. I'll go ahead and click it. This is where they actually have professional graphic designers who have created these editable templates that you can use. If you've ever used Microsoft Word or Microsoft Publisher, very similar kind of thing. I think these look really sharp. Maybe not all of them in Microsoft Publisher do. But again, this is a free program. If you're just getting on now, this is called canva.com, free program. And so a couple other things, the photos, this is just where they have like some stock photos or user uploaded photos and things that are free or premium. You can pay for them. Everything I'm going to do today is going to be the free side of things. There are premium options, but everything right now that I'm doing today is going to be free. All right, so let's go back to the homepage here real quick. So what I want to do is I'm just going to show you how I would create a very, very simple post. Okay, so I'm going to go up here and I'm going to click create a design. Again, we're jumping in here on purpose. This is the whole goal is to show you how we can do something really simple. So if you want to put in custom dimensions, if you know what the dimensions you want are, you could do that. For me, I'm trying to create a Facebook post. So I'm going to go with the suggested dimensions that they have for a Facebook post. I'm going to click that. We're going to change screens here. Okay, now we're on a new set of screens that we need to orient to. So out here, this is the canvas that we have. This is where we're going to put all of the stuff we want to see. Everything out in the gray here is going to get left behind. So if you have anything that's off of this, it'll get left behind, and only this window here, this pane here, will eventually make it through to when we export stuff. Over here on the left, I mentioned templates. We have another way to view templates. These are all specifically Facebook post templates. It's cool. Sometimes you'll have them where these are recently used ones, but you'll have ones that are related to something that's happening right now. So around Christmas time, you'll see stuff related to Christmas. Around Ramadan, you'll see things, like those types of up to the date suggested templates. And so if you wanted to do one of those, like say this one, for instance, it's going to automatically populate that in there. It's going to choose fonts that look really good together automatically. It's going to put in a picture of a child that I don't know. So the cool thing here is, though, I can go and I can edit these different components. So right now the yellow is selected, and up here is where I'm going to change my colors. And if I wanted it to make it pink, I can do that. Now, obviously, this becomes hard to see. If I wanted to change it to something like that looks nice. You can change all these components. You can move the picture. You can edit the text, etc. So that's templates. I'm going to show you the step-by-step of how to add stuff, but that's a place to start. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the template. And now we're going to go down here to the next tab here, which is photos. Okay. So this is, again, photos from Canva. So you can use these if you want. You can. And you may want to make it sure and pay attention. Generally, the stuff that's in Canva you can use for whatever purpose. But if you're getting photos off the internet, especially if you're just going to Google and looking for them, be very careful. You want to make sure that you actually have the rights to use a particular image. So that looks really nice. Again, you could see that the outline, everything out here, every part of the picture out here disappears when it's off of this central palette. Okay, so that's photos. Elements are the catch-all category. So we have things like shapes, we have things like clip art and stickers, we have all these other things we're going to play with. So that's where elements are. We're going to, again, demonstrate this here in a second. Text, this is where we're going to add text. So if I click here, I can add in whatever text I want. I can then move that around, all that fun stuff, okay? We're just orienting to the buttons right now. Okay, I'm not going to go with music or videos right now. I'll just show you background and uploads, and then we'll actually jump into doing stuff. So backgrounds are exactly what you would think. They are different optional backgrounds that are pre-made by Canva. I don't tend to use them a ton. I sometimes do, but generally speaking, I don't use them a whole lot. But that's another option there. We will actually use them in the example so you can see how they work. The last one I'll show you here is uploads. So uploads is where you take any files that you have from one place or another, whether it's a photo that you've taken, whether it's a logo that you have. You could do video and all that kind of stuff if you want it to be more of an interactive, advanced type of graphic. But this is where you're going to go and drop in stuff that you want to use. So you can see here I have some different logos that I've used for different designs. I'll show you exactly how to do that here in just a minute as well. Okay, so that's how this overall, this template, or sorry, this screen, this design component of the Canva works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some examples of very simple graphics that I made. We're going to deconstruct them, and then I'm going to reconstruct them on here. So I'm going to go back over to my main dashboard here, and I'm going to go to see where my designs were. So I have a couple of different examples here, things that I made. Let's go with this one here for now. So if you see a graphic, or if you sketch something out, or you have an idea, the first thing you want to do is try to identify what the different components of it are. Generally, most things that we see are not that complicated. So for me in this one, I see text here. I see text here. I see some sort of like a clip arty image thing here, and I see a background. Okay. Now this doesn't look super fancy, but it looks a whole lot better than a screenshot of a Word document. And that's kind of the sweet spot where we're going right now. If you're just starting out, just try to do a little bit better, have things look a little bit nicer. So if I was going to try to rebuild this, I have to have these 4 different elements. 1, 2, 3, and then the background is 4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop over here into this. And the first one I'm going to put in is a background. I know I said I don't really use backgrounds very much, but it can be handy for simple stuff. So I'm going to drop that in there. Okay. Now, I don't necessarily love this color that much. I want to do a slightly different color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here to this little colorful thing here, and I'm going to click that. And it's going to give me a bunch of different stock default options. Or I can actually go with a new color. And I can select what that is, and I can, get it dialed in. I'm going to go over to I'm just going to drag this over somewhere in here. And I'm going to move this out to here. This is all a little more advanced. You don't have to do this necessarily, but I'm going to go with that there. Okay, but that's how you change the background color. So I'm going to choose that color. Could have easily just done that. Let's go with that. Oops. Now, the next, I keep zooming in. The next thing that we want to do is we want to add that apple. So I'm going to go to elements here. And this is just in Canva. This is all very particular to Canva. And I'm just going to go up here and I'm going to search for apple. See what I get. Okay. So there's the one I used, very first entry. I'm going to use a slightly different one for this one, just for entertainment purposes, we'll say. So that one looks kind of cool. Sweet. So what I did was I saw that this is not that wasn't the size that I wanted. So I just grabbed in the corner and I scaled it up. Okay. Just like that. Then I can click on it and drag it around. I can put it wherever I want. I can do all this kind of stuff. All right. So for now, we'll leave that there. You can always come back and move it later. Now, the other 2 elements we needed to add were text. I'm going to add a heading. And again, I'm just going to grab and move that up. Sometimes you have to play around and grab it right on the edge. It's just the nature of these things. And we wanted to say on sale now. So I'm just typing that in, just double clicking, typing that in. Okay, right now, this particular text is already bolded, so we don't have that option. But if I wanted it to be italicized, I can do that. If I want it to be underlined, I could do that. If I want to change the alignment to left, right, or center, so more like if I have it here, left, right, center, I think I would like it centered. If I want all caps versus like that, you could do it that way. Just the formatting is very similar, limited, but very similar to what you can do in like a Microsoft Word. Up here, I can adjust the font size if I want to make it really small or make it huge. I liked it about where it was, right about there. If you scale this up on the corner, it'll also change the size, just for what that's worth. Okay, cool. So the last thing that I want to add is one more additional text here. And it helps if you have this stuff already typed up. This is the prep. You've heard me talk about with web design and online stores, doing some preparation ahead helps. I'm going to go back over here and I'm going to grab that. Just copied it, just copied it. Thought I copied it. There we go. All right. So at this point, I think this should be bolded and underlined. So I'm going to highlight it. Go up here and hit bold, hit underline. All this should be relatively straightforward and simple so far. But hopefully it also should be exciting because it's not that difficult, right? So underline it and bold it. Okay. A couple other things I want to cover on this one. So I mentioned you can just click this and drag it around and move it to different places. There's a couple of other options that you have. Let's say that you are like me and you're very particular about certain elements. And for me, I don't want this stem, I don't actually feel this way, but if I don't want this stem to go this way, I want this whole thing to be a mirror image of itself. All I'm going to do is click on the image, make sure it's selected, and hit flip. Now I can flip it horizontally, or I can flip it vertically. You can do this with any image and any of these like little clip arty thing. I mean, they are types of images. The other thing is, and we're going to use this later, I'm just going to introduce the function now, is crop. Okay, so if for some reason I really wanted only half of this apple to show up, so let me do that again. So I clicked on the image, and then I clicked crop, and I can drag this across like this, and you see it still shows me the other part here. And when I'm done, I hit done, and it has cropped it. Okay, and now I can move it around. I can also rotate it, all the fun stuff. Okay, now if I decide that I don't like that, hit crop, extend back out to the full size that it was, hit done, and we're back to a whole apple again, more or less. Okay, so let's look at the other one I did and just see. Yeah, so for me, this one actually looks a little bit better. I think it's a little more eye-catching. I like the color a little bit more. Oh well. I guess you all are inspiring me as we're sitting here working together. Okay, let's go to another one that's maybe just a touch more advanced. Let's do this one. So I'm going to show you now another variation on how to do this. So I don't know about you, but I like to work in drafts. I like to do a first effort, come back to it, look at it, edit it, change things about it, etc. So one way to do that in Canva is, okay, here's my first draft version of this. So I can go up here and I can go File, and I can make a copy. Okay, so I'm going to click that. The reason you want to do that is because, like, let's say all of this stuff, I just want to get rid of it. If I close everything and I come back and I did that on my original file, all this stuff would be gone. So Canva does not save, like it saves your most recent version automatically constantly, which is cool if your internet crashes or you close or you have to come back to it or whatever. But in order to have the original version, like let's say that I do a bunch of stuff on version 2 that I don't like, having the saved copy is a helpful thing. So let's go ahead and just rebuild this so I can demonstrate all that. But so what I would typically do if I'm drafting, every time that I come in and do a next draft, I create a copy. You can change the name up here if you wanted it to be draft 2 or whatever. And it's going to save each of those as individual copies in all of your designs. Okay, let's go to the background here real quick. Let's set the background to white, plain as day, the way that it when we first started. So let's go back and just take a look at what the elements of this design are. So I have obviously the clip art components. I have a logo. I have text here and here, and I have what appear to be 3 different colors of shapes. In reality, this is just 2 different colors of shapes. So there's a big purple one and then a gray one over top of it. Okay. So let's go ahead and do a couple of these components. So let's go back over here. And again, I'm going to use the background because it's helpful to a lot of people. So I'm going to do the background, and let's do that color for now. Okay, so the next thing that I want to create is just an element, a shape in this case in particular. So I'm going to use a square. This is one of the most common things that people do to you in all kinds of different platforms, Photoshop and other places, to create these like shape-based structural graphics. Is you can take a shape, and let's just go with gray for now, and let's shrink it down and make it long and skinny. Let's put it in the middle here. And let's extend it. And notice when I extend it all the way off into the junk over here. Okay. So now if we click off that shape, I have a nice big colorful stripe down the middle. A couple of other things that people sometimes might do is to take this shape and turn it on its edge and run it like that, and maybe make a copy and run it like that. And now, and maybe make another copy. I'm going crazy now. And rotate that and have it like that. Right? So now we have this, what appears to be a square thing, but actually it's these shapes that are off. So there's lots of creative ways to think about that. Again, I'm not going to try to go super crazy here. Let's put this back here again. I'm rotating it just by grabbing it and rotating it. Okay, whoops. And it's showing me the degrees there. Okay, so we want to add some text. Try not to go too long on this. Farmers market open. Stretch this out. Another part of the functionality of these programs is if you grab something like text or an image and you want it to be perfectly centered, if you drag it and get it close, there should be in Canva, there's a pink line that appears. And that's telling me that I am on the center line left to right. And if I drag it down, you see the pink line running across, that means I'm at the dead center of that design overall. Okay. So you can use those grid lines to get things nice and centered. Okay, and let's move this up a little bit and add a little bit of additional text. Maybe. Saturday, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. I'm just going to drag in the corner, shrink it down, and I'm going to grab this and I'm going to move it, and I want it to be centered on the page. Perfect, just like that. If you ever want to make minor adjustments, you can click on the certain item and you can use your keyboard arrows, just the ones down at the bottom right hand of your keyboard, and you can move it up and down and left and right just very, very slightly if you have a shaky hand or whatever. But then again, you can always snap it to the center. Snap it to this shaky hand, ironically. Right on cue. Okay, so I'm going to add a couple. Let's just go back real quick. Add a couple more elements here. I'm not going to drag this on too long. I'm going to search for vegetables. This is all this is just applicable to Canva. There's other options you can see there. Here are the different ones. One piece of advice is don't have really, really different types of illustrations. For instance, I wouldn't try to put something like this where it's like very abstract outline kind of one color vector image with something like this, and then mix it with something like this that's like hyper realistic. And so pick things that kind of look like they could be from the same family of illustrations, something like that. That one's even a little bit off from the other two. You could do it just like this, and all I'm doing is resizing, dragging. That's all there is to it. This really is point and click, point and shoot, kind of straightforward approach. Okay, so that's another example. And of these two, I think I probably like this one better. Oh, I forgot my logo. Let me go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go out of full screen here for just a second. And something that I always recommend in all of the webinars that I do on anything related to design or to web layout or anything is I recommend that you have all of the stuff that you want to include in your designs. And for me, in this case, all the things that I want to show in this demo in one place, the files all in one place. And so you can see here, I actually did what I said this time. I've got my file folder here, and I have example pictures. These are all the pictures you're going to see throughout the rest of the presentation. And in particular, here's my Canva demo components. I have my logos. I have these pictures that I'm going to use. And so what I want to do is I want to put my logo in here on this design. Okay. I'm going to drop it in here. What I need to do is I need to upload it. And I've already uploaded them here, but let's go ahead and just delete these for now. And so that way it's like we're doing it for the first time. So I have one with black text and I have one with white text. Okay, you can't obviously see the white. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to click here, I'm going to drag it over here and drop it. And now it's uploading, and I'm going to do the same thing for the white. You can actually do multiple things at once. You could, select them all and drag them all over if you wanted. And once Canva uploads this stuff, it will keep those files for you. So what I mean by that is if you do a graphic a week for a year and you're using your logo, you should only have to upload this one time and it should be here in your files and ready to roll. So now all I want to do, I can either click and drag this and place it where I want, or I can just click it and it'll drop it in just kind of in the dead center. Okay, again, this is just an image, so I'm just grabbing the corner and scaling it up or down. And since the text and all the images are independent of each other, you don't have to worry about what we would call text wrapping. So if that means something to you, great. If not, that's okay. So let's go back into full screen. So all I did was upload this here, and that looks really nice. Something I will note is that this is a PNG file. Again, if that means something to you, great. But it has a transparent background. So what that means is when I put it over stuff, you can see the stuff behind it through the image. If you don't have that yet, I would really suggest trying to get at least a version of your logo that does have a transparent background. Now, because you all have showed up and you're hanging out with me today, if you have a logo and you want to make a transparent background version of it, if you email it to me, it's just for people who are watching this live. If you want to email it to me, I will do my best to cut out the background for you and send it back to you with a transparent background. I can't, you got to get it to me within the next week or so, but I will do my best. And if you have text like this, see how I have a black and a white text version. If this was really dark, if my background was was black, obviously this text is not showing up great, whereas the white looks great. So that's just something to think about with your logos, is having that cutout background. And it's not hard to do that. It's pretty quick if you know how to do it. Learning how to do it can take a little more time than it's worth, especially if that's the only thing you're ever going to do like that. Okay. Again, reminder, if you have questions, and drop them in the Q&A. I do have a couple of questions that come in that I will address here in just a few minutes. Okay. So let's see here. Okay, so yeah, we had the question coming in. What about copyrights? Yep. So Katie mentioned Pexels and Unsplash. I love Pexels. I'll go ahead and show you that now since we've got questions coming in about it. This is just pexels.com. And this is where I found some of the images that I'm about to show you. And so what I searched for was this, pig. And now all of these, the way that this works is the people who put these up on here, it's almost kind of like streaming services for music. They put it up here with the understanding that they're not going to get paid for this, but you have the option of contributing to them, but you can download these pictures for free. And let me see here. Just trying to find the info. Okay, so down here it says free to use, no attribution required. Learn more about the license. Just showing you this here. You can use them for free. The only thing you really shouldn't do is do something that makes people look bad, sell just the picture as itself without anything changing, using it as an endorsement of your product, or redistributing and selling the photos specifically on stock things. One thing to just be careful of with Pexels is, especially now as more and more people are aware of it. Let me see if I can find the picture. This picture I have seen about 250 times in graphics. I've used it. I used it before when I first heard about Pexels and started using it. I used it. So if you're looking for originality, if you have a feature piece, you're probably better off trying to find either taking a picture yourself or finding one that's a little more unique, because this picture I've seen everywhere. I've seen this picture in many different places. Again, I've used it myself, and no judgment there. So that is just one thing. These are available for everybody to use. Okay. Let's see. So I think the question might have been related to this. Can you change the gray box to a different color? Absolutely. You can change any component of anything, with the exception of some of the ready-made images, to a different color. So if I wanted to change this to green, I can do that. I'm just going up here and clicking this. I can change it to whatever I want. Okay. We're going to talk more about color here in a little while. Okay. Yeah. So one thing you might consider doing if you do use Pexels and you download it. So like, let's just go ahead and use this one as an example that I said. So free download. So when I'm going to show this, you could show this in your browser or whatever. You might consider adding Pexels to the extension there, just so you remember where you got it and to cover yourself a little bit. But in my experience, it's not a big deal. If people are putting it on Pexels, they're putting it on there because they know that's how it's going to be used. But there's a lot of great images available on there. Okay, so let's go back to the browser. I know this part of it is dragging on just a little bit, but all right. So let's do a couple more. This one here, I'm just going to show you the elements that are involved because it's very, very similar. All I did here, you can see that the size of the actual image thing is a little bit different. That's because I went to create a design, and instead of Facebook post, I actually created a poster. Okay, so you just click poster. It's going to create dimensions for you. At any point along the way, if you want to do let's create a design, and you want it to be, you can change it from pixels to inches. You want it to be 8.5 by 11. You can create a design that's going to be 8.5 by 11. Okay. All right. So let's do one more here, or let's look at one more, and then I'll show you the last one that has a couple of features that I want to make sure you know how to do. So this here is just a poster, very simple. I don't think it's particularly attractive, but hey, that's the way it goes. So we have text, we have a logo, text. Okay. Behind the text, for right now, I'm going to move this text out of the way so we can see it. We have a shape. This is just a shape, just like any other, and it's set to the color of green. Okay. If you notice, though, you can see stuff through the green, right? It's not solid. So the way that I do that is I go up here. Oops. I go up here to this. It says transparency. You see that? And I drag it one way or the other. So all the way over here is completely clear. All the way over here is completely opaque. I think, and let me put the text back on it. I personally think this looks fine, but I think that this looks a little bit more subtle, a little more professional, something along those lines. Again, I'm not in love with the background. This back here is just my background. I can change it to any number of different options. A flame. Don't love that. Okay, so the background itself is separate from this. Okay, so this is very similar to the stuff that I did on the previous one. I'm going to show you one more that I think could be a really effective way of doing this stuff. I'm going to close some of these tabs because they're getting a little overwhelming. And this last one here is the most, it looks maybe simple, the simplest, but it has the most components, I think, that are a little more complex. And it's going to involve everything that we've talked about so far, kind of all in one go. So we've done this already. What are the elements of this design? Well, first off, this is a Facebook cover size. So I go to create a design, Facebook cover. Okay. And this is where I'm going to rebuild the thing that the example here. It's got 1, 2, 3 images. So if I went and Googled a flyer, or I saw a picture on somebody's page and I was trying to copy the concept of what they did, this is how I would do it. I would go and I would see what the elements are of that thing and how can I adapt it to what I'm doing. So we've got 1, 2, 3 different pictures. We've got some text and we've got a shape here in addition to this logo. Okay. So how are we going to recreate that? Well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to our uploads. And again, if you missed it earlier, the way that you're going to get files and stuff into here, let's go ahead and delete these for now. Now, if you delete these, they're gone from your Canva side of things, but that doesn't affect your files on your computer at all. Okay, and so I have my cow picture, I have my pig picture, and my chickens. So let's go ahead and I'm just going to select all of those. I'm going to drag it over into here. See, it says drop to upload your file. I'm going to drop it. It's really as simple as that. You can also click here and click that and find where the files are. So you could find them on your desktop or whatever. But for me, I like the drag and drop. I think it's pretty quick and pretty painless. So, and these are relatively big pictures, so they're taking a second to upload. So now I'm going to add these onto my my palette here, or onto my canvas, I should say. All right, so I've got cows, and let's put the cows in the middle this time. I'm just going to grab the corner to resize. I'm going to add chickens. Cool. I really want the focus to be on this little guy's face. And then we're going to add the pigs. I want it to fill up the full space. All right, we're done, right? Well, obviously not. So the cow is completely obscured here, and that's because we have a full-size image. So there's 2 things you need to be aware of. The first thing you might think is, well, just crop the images. And that is totally true. If you hit crop, we can take and we can grab this, bring it over like this. You can see the cows are reappearing behind it. Great, awesome, cool. Let's do that. And then let's crop this. Oops, let's crop this. Well, that is an option. Okay, but so let's just say I don't necessarily want to go that way, or let's say I don't want to have to crop it so that it's exactly in the right spot. So let's undo the last couple of things we did. The other thing you need to be aware of with any graphic design, and this applies with all of the previous designs we've done too, is that there is an order to the way that the images appear on the screen. And so what I mean by that is, if you think of that the white canvas, that's like the farthest away from you. And then gradually you're stacking things on top of each other. And so right now, the pigs are stacked on top of the chickens, which are stacked on top of the cows, right? This is a very agricultural example of the pigs are stacked on top of the cows. But what we can do is we can adjust how those things appear. You can do this in PowerPoint, you can do this in Word, you can do this all over the place, but it's very important in anything graphical. And so in Canva, the way that we do that is you select whatever the image is and you go to position. Now, they say backward and forward. Okay, so back is as far from you as possible and forward is all the way forward. And since our pigs are all the way toward us, you're going to click backward and it's moving behind the chickens, and then click backward one more time and it's going to move them behind the cows. Okay, so you can do the same thing with the cows. We can go to click on the cow picture, position, bring it forward, backward, backward. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the cows forward, and now the cows are on top. Okay, now I'm going to get my chicken picture more or less exactly where I want it, and I'm going to crop just the cow picture. This way I only have to crop one thing, and everything else, because it's tucked behind it, you only see the top layer at any point. Okay, so I'm going to crop the cow picture here. I think we want just our featured buddy here in the middle, and I'm going to hit done. Okay, and at this point, I think I might want to reposition the pig a little bit. Might reposition the cow just a little bit. Boom, done. Okay, And now keep in mind, there's a whole bunch left to this picture still that is off the screen, off of the canvas. So I can move this and center just the section of it that I want. Boom, just like that. I think these picture-based graphics are one of the most effective ways to tell a story about your farm, about your business, etc. Really, I would highly recommend resisting the temptation to have all of your pictures be like small and feeling the need to have anything else on the picture on the canvas. Like you don't need to have a background like that with your picture set like this. If you like that, great, go for it. But to me, a more modern look is to go ahead and take the picture all the way out so that it goes all the way to the edges of the frame. You can also do them where they're, if you wanted to have like a more of a collage style like that, you could do it like that. Lots of options there. But I really like this as a simple way of doing it. Okay. So we just covered layering and we went back over cropping. The same way with the other images, you can also do the transparency thing with these if you somehow, for some reason, wanted to do that. I don't particularly love it, but okay. Let's add a couple more things here. So let's add some text. And I think what I said was from our farm to your table. Okay. Let's go ahead and make that font. We're going to change the color of the font to white. Okay. Now, to me, that looks better than the black, but with the color of this here, it's still a little bit hard to read. Okay, well, let's go ahead and add the other logo too. So I'm going to go to Uploads, add the logo. I learned everything I know about Canva from just playing around with it and learning over time. So that's the thing I would encourage you to do. So let's put that there like that. I think this is just a touch, for me at least, a touch hard to read. So one option that we can do is a variation on what we've done before, which is to go and add a shape, just like that. Drag that over like that. Now, you'll notice my text is here on the front. My logo is disappeared. So all I'm going to do is position this and send backwards. Okay, perfect. Let me scale the logo down just a touch. So that doesn't look awesome to me. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the color of that block. Let's make it black for now. So that looks kind of nice, kind of stark. But remember that other trick that we have to play with the transparency a little bit. And bring it down. And if you go all the way here, it's completely transparent. It's as if it's not even there. But if you just bump it up slowly until, to me, right about there, makes it a little more visible. That's just another trick that you can use to help make that text pop a little bit. Okay. A couple of things that I have not touched on at all yet that I am going to talk about, but I want to, I'll show you how you do them, is in Canva, there are hundreds of different fonts. Okay. Lots and lots of different fonts. Some of them are premium, but a lot of them are not. So if you want to change your font to whatever, we're going to talk about this out in the PowerPoint. Okay, so there's lots of different font options that you can choose from to deal with that. Okay, so again, we played around with layers, we played around with shapes, we played around with text, but the central tool of Canva is one that just about anybody can figure out how to use. Let's see, it looks like we maybe had a couple of chats come in. Yes, so Katie makes a really good point, which is remember to think about where the particular item is going to be used. And so in the case of this, it could very well be that when you go to upload this on Facebook, this thing is completely cut off. You're going to have to learn and experiment with this. And also Facebook periodically kind of changes what portions it shows, at least for me. And so it could be that you actually need to have this message. Oops. Come on, buddy. Let's do both of these here. It's like that. Fine. That you have to move, you want to move this image up to the top and move the text up here or something like that. You can always do that. And sometimes you'll have to go and just upload it and see if you can figure out which portion you need to show. It's the same way with like the YouTube videos. When I upload a YouTube video and I have a custom thumbnail, the little play button is right in the center. So if I put text in the middle, it doesn't look good. Let's see. I'll show you one more example. So this is for from the upcoming webinar I mentioned. So I just made this in here because I thought it'd be a good opportunity to show you. So this just has text, 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 image, a couple of logos and some text. The background, again, because I'm trying to show people how to do it, is these clouds. But when I put in the original background, I found that it was it made the text just a little bit hard for me to read. And so what I did was I just added in a shape over it that I'm using kind of as a filter. And that shape's color is white. You can't see it because it fades, it goes into the back there. But right now it's just white. And then I adjusted the transparency, if that's all the way up, adjusted the transparency down so to where it was like nice, you could still see through. So that's just another example. Again, any of these different, if you want to do create an Instagram graphic, if you want to create any of that, you hit Instagram post, it'll create one for you that's perfectly square and really large. It optimizes that stuff. Let's see here. Can logos be created in Canva? Theoretically, yes. I would not want to use the components of Canva to build a logo unless it was really graphical, to build a logo that I was going to have to live with for a long time. To me, logos, which is like the central piece of your business, again, this is just my personal opinion and my professional opinion. Logos are something that I would invest in someone who has a really strong background in graphic design and with whom you can have good communication back and forth. Think about designing that, because I know K-Card and others, we've worked with businesses who do a big brand development and they do stuff, all their DIY, whatever, and then they go to rebrand, and it's there's a whole nother, layer to that. You can do it. It can be done. If you already have a logo and you want to change it, that can be done. But to me, I would want to try to get that as close as I could. And the cool thing is, when you're done, they will send you, I think we just did this ourselves, but this predates me, but they'll send you the files with all those different components, all those different logo components. Let's see here. Is there a way to get 1/3, 1/3, 1/3? Yes, there is. So in the elements, these grids, it will divide them. And so then if you want to put, I haven't done this in a while, so hopefully this works. Yeah. And so if you wanted to put your photos in those, you can do it like that. And you can also, I think you can make adjustments to that spacing. Yep. So yes. And so the way I did that was I went to elements. So this is a good question, Suzanne, because sometimes alignment is something that people aren't real comfortable with. And so if you wanted to do some sort of a collage, like let's say you wanted to do that one, let's get rid of all of that for a second. If you wanted to do one like this, and you could add, I'm just using my same photos here, sorry, uploads, use photos here. Okay, just like that. And again, if you want your space, if you want them to touch, I don't particularly love the border there. You might like it, that's fine. Just like that. And then you could go in and add a shape or something like that that says, this is where you could put in our farm to your table or whatever. So let's see here. So Katie mentioned there's lots of graphic designers that do logo design for pretty inexpensive. Yeah, it's there's definitely, I mean, this type of stuff that we are talking about, you creating graphics for you to go out and put on social media, those types of things. To me, a logo is what I would consider a more durable resource, which means I would probably think about, and it doesn't have to be super expensive, but go and you have somebody to go back and forth with, and you can kind of give them their ideas. I mentioned this at the very start. I'm not a graphic designer, and so I know my limits, and you should too. In the same way that you maybe wouldn't invite a graphic designer to come out and take the tractor for a spin without any training or anything. It's a similar kind of thing. Respect the fact that you have skills and respect that they have too. This is just something that soft edges and stuff like that. I'm not sure about that one. I don't think it has that functionality, Woody. Let me see here. Let's see. Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. Let's see. And like the glow or anything like that. No, but so the thing that you're, let's create a new one here. Just real quick. I do still have some PowerPoint stuff that I want to cover, just some concepts and principles and stuff. Let's just do a Facebook post. So you could do, so for instance, if you have a picture like that, and you want to give it an outline for one reason or another, you can go to Elements, and you can grab a shape. Just trying to show, let's see, just go to just shapes. So there's this, which is like, you can use it like a frame. Oops. If you wanted something like that, you can also do it. I'm just going to click on that and hit delete. You can also do it like this, where you completely block out the image. No, I'm joking, of course. Like that, and position, send it to the back. And then you can center it on that, and it looks like a frame. Let's see, text overlay to create outlines. Oh, fonts that emulate. Yeah. So for the actual font, there are some font options where you can do that. I'm not sure if you can do it with the images, but again, this is trying to cover the basics here. This is a very powerful tool in some ways, but it is also a free tool in all ways. Again, reminder here, if you're overwhelmed by having to come up with something yourself, don't forget about these really nice templates that exist. Okay. So like this, for instance, is, our farm, your table. And you can get rid of this image and you can replace it. I realize it's a bit gauche to do this with a cow and a hamburger, but that's the reality of the world. Like that. And just change the color here. Just like that. And now we have, let's change this text to black. Just like that, you have a nice graphic based on their template, but it looks custom to exactly what you would like to have. All right. So those templates are there. Take advantage of them and play around with them, and take certain components and leave other components behind. All I did here was double click that, and it allows me to select which section of this I want to feature. And you can obviously change all this text as well. Okay, so if there aren't any other questions popping out immediately, and just a reminder, keep track of the chat, because it's there's some good solutions and ideas coming up in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave these both open so I can roll through these. So we covered the general. Oh, one other thing. Sorry. That I wanted to show. Somebody asked specifically about, is there a way to do like a drop shadow or like what do they call it? Watermark. So let's go with a Facebook post, and let's just say that this is my image. uploads. Now I'm rushing. So you could, now you would want to create an image that was, or create a project that was the right size for the image that you're going to send the proof of. But you could take this and you could put grab text, add a heading, just like that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate it and I'm going to stretch it out just a little bit. And then obviously that is not a watermark, but what you could do is you could take it, you can take it and adjust the transparency of the text. That would be one quick way. You could do the exact same thing with a logo. You know, if you wanted to blow it up like this. If you have a watermark, actual watermark, that has a little bit of a three-dimensional component to it, you could also do it that way. So again, you're just going to put it on there and adjust the transparency like that. Okay. When you are done with all of these different projects, the way that you get them out from here out into the world is very, very simple. You go up here and you click this little download button. It's then going to give you a number of different options for file type. Generally speaking, if it's an image, PNG is what you want to go for. If you have a reason that you need a really small JPEG, or if you're going to put a bunch of pictures on one page, you might consider JPEG. I'll also note here, there's PDF options. And so if you wanted to create, I talked about this on the pre-order webinar, but if you wanted to create if you wanted to create a menu for your restaurant, or you wanted to create a price list for your products, you can do that in Canva. You can do that by, it's not really designed exactly, for that, but you can totally use it for that. And so like what I mentioned before was if you wanted to go with 8.5 by 11 for a standard sheet of paper, and you drop all your text in there, you know, and let's just say we'll use a template here, and add a little bit of text just because I'm just like that. You go up here, hit download, and select PDF print for a really high quality version. Hit download, and now it's downloaded it as a PDF. I'm not sure if you can see my screen at this point. Yeah, cool. So, okay, can you all can see my screen with the two split screen? With Canva on the right. Okay, cool, perfect. Just making sure because it's kind of jumping all over the place and kind of disorienting me. Okay, so I covered the Canva demo. That's how you do the downloads. That's how you do the design, all very basic stuff. So let's just hopping over here to the PowerPoint real quick. As far as the overall principle, as you're not just randomly designing things because they look cool, do have in the back of your mind that a lot of the principles and a lot of the things you're going to choose should be related to the type of brand that you're putting out there. So if your brand is really serious, 4th-generation farmer, lots of there's like a gravity to what you're doing, and it's a very grounded brand in that way, I would think about using some earth tones or things like that. If you have something that's more of like a party planning group or something like that, you might want to have more fun colors or elements like that. So those are just examples where when you step back and look at the actual graphic or the actual thing that you're producing, ask yourself, does this connect and reinforce my brand? Connect to and reinforce my brand. Okay, so that's just general principle one. So one of the things you're going to have to make decisions about is colors. Okay, there's all kinds of different color theory, different variations and combinations of things. You may have heard these terms before. All I have here, if you're interested in color theory, you can just go to Google and type in, I typed in color wheel. This is one of those, these colors are laid out in a way that tells us that they're across from each other. There's a certain effect. These things that are in the same group have this kind of monochromatic feeling. There's a whole big, there's a very deep well you can go down on combining colors, split complementaries, etc. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a little uh, cheating option for people who maybe aren't as good with that here in just a second. But my advice to you would be to go and just look at a bunch of photographs, look at different advertisements, and note the color combinations. So a couple of them on the color wheel specifically, either directly across from each other or directly over and split from each other. So if we're talking about purple in this case, this kind of light green and this light orange, that's kind of an interesting combination. Red and green obviously is an iconic combination. Teal and orange, these are across from each other. Kind of another example. I'm going to show you actual concrete examples of these in photographs, and then I'm just going to show you the way to cheat your way toward colors that look good together. So this one here, I see purples and I see yellows. Purples and blues and yellows. There's a little bit of white and green mixed in, but overall, these are the two colors that I'm seeing in these. So that might be something that you want to think about including in some of your designs, putting these colors together. They look nice. They may, if you're trying to sell flowers, this is obviously a beautiful picture. Here's another one. Looks like a Wes Anderson movie if you're a film buff. Again, so in this case, we've got yellows and oranges with some of these reds. It's kind of this half of the color wheel. So that is a one thing. You don't necessarily have to go all the way across to the other side. You can actually see these colors working together, but particularly these oranges and greens. To me, I mean, that it creates a certain look. You may like that look, you may not. But to me, this is not what I would want necessarily for my brand, but it is something that's an option. If you have a logo that has any colors in it, paying attention to your logo's colors in addition to the other colors that are in the image or in the graphic, something you need to think about. This is I got the source listed down here because this one's not a free use image, but this is like all of these major Hollywood movies, and if you notice, they all use teal and orange. This is kind of like a joke in the very strange cinematography world, but this is like focus grouped color grading, meaning they went and asked a bunch of people in focus groups, or they tested them and see which color schemes are really pleasing to them. But here we see it's teal and orange. These are just directly across from each other in the color wheel. There's all kinds of color theories about how these colors relate, but it's obvious that this is one that lots and lots of different movies use. Does that mean you should use this? No, but it is something to pay attention to. Of course, the iconic example, immediately the red and green conjures images of Christmas. It's, these are really pleasant color, reds and greens. If you have more of a bright versions of either or both of those, it can be kind of jarring. But again, this is just examples of color pairing together, working, or creating a particular look or whatever. So let's jump to a couple of tools. And remember that tools like Canva and tools like what I'm about to show you are only as effective as their user. People sometimes think if I can just learn how to use a tool, or if I just see, I don't know what tools available, suddenly I am going to be able to create incredible graphics. Well, you still have to steer the thing. It's the same way that the example of the tractor. Just because you know how to drive a tractor doesn't mean that you're going to be really good at using it as a tool. It requires lots of practice. It requires feedback and advice from people who know what they're doing. But there are a couple of tools that can help make things a lot easier. Okay, so one thing you have to understand is in the world of design, printing, all of those worlds, those graphically driven worlds, it's really important to be able to describe colors accurately to each other. And so what designers have done is they have created languages or codes to be able to describe those colors accurately. Okay, this is a little bit more of an advanced topic, but it's something that you need to at least have in the back of your mind. There's different languages to describe colors. Canva uses this one here, which is called hexadecimal. You'll see why I'm telling you this in just a minute. So let's go into Canva and let's go back to all of my designs. Let's go to this one, for instance. Okay, so the color of the background is this kind of purplish whatever. Okay. So if I go, like once I have a color selected, if I click on this here, you can see down here, it is showing me a 6 number and lettered color. This is called a hexadecimal color. Okay, again, I know this is a little more of an advanced topic. The reason that this matters is because if you have a brand and you have particular colors, you want those colors to match really accurately. Because you can get close, but then you still won't quite be able to match it exactly. If you have the code, you can just copy and paste it. So I actually used this earlier today when I was designing the graphic for the upcoming Facebook webinar. Let me put this on full screen here. I'm going to show you the eyedropper tool. I'm going to demonstrate the Canva color codes, and I'm going to show you this coolers.co. Come on, buddy. Okay, so in this Facebook one here, for instance, so if you notice, this font perfectly matches this font, or sorry, color. This color of this font perfectly matches the color of this logo. Like they're literally exactly the same. See how it disappears when I put it on top of it? So the way that I did that was through using hex codes. Okay, so when I went in here, I happened to know, and I'll show you how I knew that the color associated with that is 3B5998. You could send that code to a graphic designer, you could send it to a print house, whatever, if they were trying to calibrate the color of what you were offering, that's what they would use. If you want to be able to match this color, so I didn't create the Facebook logo here, I didn't create this color or any of this, you need to know what that is. So here's tool number 1. This is a Chrome browser extension. Again, if this is over your head, feel free to tune out. I covered most of the basic stuff. But the Chrome browser tool that has what's called an eyedropper color picker. Okay, so if you ever use Photoshop or any of those, you'll know what this is. What it allows us to do is to go into a website and hover over a color or click on a color and know what the hex code and the other languages for this are. So if you use RGB or CMYK or whatever, you can get very, very close with CMYK. Exactly on with RGB. So I'm going to click pick color from web page, and it's going to freak out on me for a second. And I'm going to hover, and you can see down in the bottom right-hand corner, all the way down here, it's showing me the different hex codes for the different components as I hover over them. So you can see there's greens and there's blacks and there's blues. So all I did was I went here and I clicked on this blue. And when you click, it kind of takes a little snapshot and it shows you up in the color picker what that is. Okay, so in this case, I went and copied this. I selected the font. I hit new color and I just pasted it right in there. So let me do it on a different example. Like let's say right here, for some unknown reason, you want to put this purple whatever color as your text. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the color picker here. I'm going to click pick color from web page. It's going to think for a second. Okay, now it's got the color. So I'm going to click it. I'm going to go up here. I'm going to copy this just like that. I'm then going to select the font that I want to edit. I'm going to get new color and I'm just going to hit Control V for paste. And it has now changed this to the same color as the background. See how you can't see it at all, completely merges. That's how you know that you've matched the color perfectly. So again, I'm not trying to overwhelm you too much here, but a cool option would be if you wanted, like in something like this, rather than using black for the background, it's always a good idea to use, it's usually a good idea to use other colors that exist other places in your design. And so what I mean by that is, and this is over the top, I know, but I really like doing this stuff. It excites me. So let's go up here and let's select this color. So it's the sky, just a random portion of the sky. And that's the color that I want to use. Okay, so I selected it and it's there. So now I'm going to change my shape. I have my little shape selected. I'm going to change that color from black to that. And now it has a different look. You may like that. You may not like that. You may need to bump up the transparency a little bit. You could also very easily select colors from out in here. Okay, so that's one option, or one tool that I think is really helpful. Another one that is really cool, and it's going to be useful beyond just, I'm closing all these tabs because they're kind of stressing me out. Beyond just Canva and other stuff like that is this thing called Coolers. You can see it's coolers.co. There's another one of these that you can look for too, but it's what it will do. You can see it says press spacebar. This is just a website you go to. You press spacebar and it generates, turn this off here. It generates color palettes. It'll do it just randomly. And so you can hit spacebar a million times and it is giving you color palettes that are not randomly selected, but that the designers think probably look pretty good together. And so you might come across a color that you really like when you're doing this. This is completely free. So let's say that I really like this color here. I don't care for the rest of them. I'm just going to hit the little lock button. And when I hit spacebar, you'll notice all the other colors change, but that one doesn't. I really like that one with this and with this. Okay. And if I want to, I can actually change the order of these and get the ones that are new over here. Hit spacebar, keep generating. Ooh, I love this purple. Great. And let's just go with that. That's fine. So now what I have are hex codes for these different colors that I could go and then put into a design. The same way I did before. I just copied this and I pasted it. So if I want this one here, the reason I think that this is also helpful is if you've ever tried to pick out wall colors for paint for your house, or if you've ever painted furniture and tried to pick out color options, it could be a super helpful thing. So like, let's just say I want to change this one to that color. So that is the same color that came from my color palette here. It's this one. And I want my text to be this. I'm just going to copy it. Oops. This is not the most recent version. It's this one. Change this text to this. I mean, you get the point. I'm not going to keep going with this. It changed it to that really nice dark purple. You can use this to generate different colors if you don't have a very good eye for colors. You can also, like, if you know that your your color has a certain hex code, you can put that in and select that color and then generate other things that go along with it too. So again, if this is going over your head, sorry, not trying to overwhelm you, but this is a really nice way to pick out colors that look good together for a variety of different applications. Okay. So I showed you coolers. I showed you the eyedropper tool where you can figure out what a particular color is. And I also showed you how to put in specific colors for the Canva document. Okay. Let's go back to the PowerPoint. Maybe. Okay. So just a couple other principles here on fonts. I'm not an expert on fonts. I kind of have a sense of what looks good and what doesn't. But I will say they are one of the most subtle yet impactful components of any graphic. And just remember, the overall principle is we're thinking about what our brand is. For instance, UK has a very specific color of blue that we are supposed to use in all of our. It's this color right here. This is a very specific color of blue that has hex codes and RGB values. These fonts are also a very particular font. The font that I'm using in this PowerPoint is actually called Avenir, which is what we're supposed to use for these types of presentations or these types of things. So when I say fonts matter, an institution as big as UK is very choosy about which fonts people use or what you're supposed to use. Now, obviously, policing it is one thing, but the point being, that we do have specific fonts and specific colors. Here I have some examples of some different statements in different types of fonts and what they say. What I think. There's a little bit of a cheekiness here, but please don't use Comic Sans or Papyrus. No offense to anyone, but please just don't. To me, Avenir, the one that UK uses, it's very like modern but non-threatening, which is exactly what a university would want to get across. The point here is just that as you change fonts, your message is affected by that. Okay. Quick tools that I think are super, super helpful. I recommend going on the internet. So I'll just go ahead and show you, pop over to Google. I'm going to show you this Canva's Ultimate Guide to Font Pairing, but also just show you, like if you just go to Google and do font pairing examples, it will show you all kinds of fun, different variations. One thing to note, Canva does not have the standard fonts the same as Microsoft Word. So Microsoft Word has different fonts, different font families. The names are all different. So if you want to try to get an exact match between Word and Canva, it can be a little bit iffy. However, Canva offers, so I'm just going to, again here, I'm going to go Canva. Oops, it's right here. But I'm going to search Canva font pairing. And the top result for me should be a purple link that I've been to many times. And this is where they recommend to you different font combinations. These are the names. League Spartan is one of them, is the name of the font in Canva. Libre Baskerville in Canva, and then italicized. What you can do is you can see, I don't pay too much attention to the description, but you can see how these things look together. And so when you go to do your font pairing, so for instance, on our the presentation for today, I think I have that on the PowerPoint. I chose one font that they said they thought would look good, and then I chose another one that they said would go with it. It looks good. I used the colors. I actually, the color for this font I chose from one of the tips of one of these pencils here. But I use this all the time, and graphic designers use font recommendations and font principles like that all the time. They aren't just all coming up with it off the cuff. Everybody has things that you like. So let's see. I'll come over to the questions here in just a second. But everybody has different fonts and pairings that they really like. I personally, I like the way that this looks. You may not like this. To me, this has a very clean, modern, informal look about it. You may like that. You may want something a little more earthy, a little more traditional, a little more wild, whatever. I'm part of UK Extension. We don't necessarily do wild. Okay, let's go over to the questions here for a second. The title of the plugin for the eyedropper tool. So the one that I use is called, there's two of them. Again, this is a Chrome plugin. It's the eyedropper color picker. And so let's go to the Google Chrome eyedropper color picker Chrome plugin. That's not the one that I have. The one that I have is this one. Eyedropper. I think they're probably both pretty similar. But all you do is just click it and it can add it to Chrome. No problem. Let's see. Yeah, so they have multiple questions there. So yes, it's not standard at all, but it comes from a developer. This is the one that I use. Yep, and I recommend, Googling font pairings is a good way. I don't think that you can upload fonts into like the free Canva. I'm not sure if you can do it on premium or not. There are a lot, like there are, let's go into one here. So like there's, I'll show you this. There's Helvetic-ish, so it's very similar to Helvetica. And you can also, I think, Canva font. Let's see, Microsoft Canva equivalent fonts. Yeah, you might just need to play around and see if you can find one that works. But for free, I don't think that you can upload fonts. Okay, we'll keep going here. Don't want to go too much longer. So a couple of other ideas here. Balance is one that is hard. It's kind of hard to know exactly what it is. I was sitting there playing around for probably 20 or 30 minutes just with the placement of the graphics for this presentation and for the one that's coming up, just to get something that looks approximately balanced. I think that the main thing here is to practice, continue making multiple drafts. Sometimes I'll come back to something and I'll realize, oh, this is exactly how it should look. And I just need time away from it. I need fresh eyes. And the last one here is one that I really cannot I want to make sure that I emphasize it. You're going to need to look and see what other people do. There's a reason why great filmmakers watch other films. There's a reason why great musicians listen to other music. It's because it's inspiring, and it's also a source for new ideas for yourself that maybe you hadn't thought about doing it that way. And what I mean by that is go and search something like, I haven't done this, so hopefully it's not stupid. Search event flyers, and look through these and see, maybe you really like this shape within a shape. That's something I wouldn't have thought about doing, is, having a shape within a shape. You now know how to do that in Canva. Something like this, a simple, you're going to need to look for inspiration and pay attention to the things that you like. Stay organized with your colors and your fonts and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's another thing to think about. Again, just connect back, and you can go review these PowerPoints if you want on the back end. But everything you're doing is about representing and tying to your brand and communicating the message that you want to communicate. There are people who are good at this, who are naturally really good at this. They have a good eye. Maybe they just give good feedback, whatever that may be. Identify those people and ask them for their opinion. Have them give you feedback. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to come up with everything yourself. So just give it some time, practice doing this, and just keep it simple until you need to add additional complexity. I think that we're shooting for, I was taking a screen cap of a Word document, and now I want to put something out that's a little more polished. Okay. Yeah, so that's the main overview. So we covered basics of how to use Canva in the first place. We covered, and then after that, we covered some principles and some tools related to dealing with color and font. Those are two of the big ones that you're going to need to deal with. And then balance is something that I still struggle with myself. So trying to give you an exact, here's how to do this, maybe not that helpful. Okay, does anybody have more questions or comments or anything like that? If you do, drop them in the chat. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything. Yeah. So just to recap, if you're thinking about a logo, maybe consider working with somebody to get those done. Don't forget to make copies and save. Cool. Sweet. Well, if you do have questions, please let me know. I am going to send an email. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and just do it. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. I'm going to send an email right now to everybody who registered, asking you to please fill out the evaluation. I am literally pressing send right now. Okay, I know that the links don't work in this chat function. You can't click on them. It's silly. So I'm sending you a presentation. I'm sending you an email with a link to the evaluation. So please complete that. Let us know what other things you want to do. and see. Reminder, we do have a Facebook page basics overview of Facebook components. Just that webinar will be a week from today at 10:30 a.m. Again, we'll put stuff out on social media. If you haven't already, please like the Center for Crop Diversification on Facebook. Yeah, awesome. Well, I'm so glad that you all tuned in. I'm glad it was useful. I really like this stuff. It's fun, and I've picked up some tips and things along the way, and I like sharing them. So now, hopefully, you'll be able to create some cool stuff. But like I said, thank you all for joining me. Really, really appreciate you, and we'll see you very soon.